I'm a self-promoter. I'm a very good-looking guy. I'm an idol to some. I'm a brainless idiot. I'm your daddy. I'm a psychopath. I'm unstable. I'm a curmudgeon's curmudgeon. I'm an animal. I'm a tyrant. I'm a physical peon. But I'm a man. I'm incompetent with women. I'm one of the great Casanovas of all time. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a coward. I'm a nut job.
Welcome to Termini Crashes Out, an NBA podcast with Justin Termini, brought to you by DCLA. And now it's time for Termini to Crash Out.
All right, it's time for Termini to crash out, and I'm a little bit energized. I thought I would be tired because we were up until about 2 a.m. doing the show yesterday, and then we didn't get to sleep until 3:30 because after I do a show, I got a little bit of energy, so it's difficult to sort of wind down, relax, and get some shut-eye. But we're energized because I feel like we got one really good game with San Antonio and Portland. We got another nice surprise with Philadelphia over Boston. And then the Lakers-Rockets game was just very difficult to watch from an execution perspective. Like you think about what you saw last night with Minnesota and Denver. Two high-quality teams, two teams that could go really deep. I don't think you're going to see that with Houston or the Lakers. Now, maybe the Lakers, they get Luka and Austin Reeves back, and they continue to click on all cylinders and defend like they are right now. Then maybe they could do something. But next is Oklahoma City, so probably not. At least that would be high-quality basketball. But with all the guys that they are missing and just the offensive approach from Houston, those are not two teams right now that are playing at a high level. So why don't we do this? Why don't we conclude with the final game that we just saw with the Lakers and Rockets at the end of the YouTube program, Termini Crashes Out, and we will start with the two games that I felt were the best. One because of the massive surprise in Boston, and then because of the massive surprise plus the great game down the stretch for San Antonio. But again, the game that we just saw there, not high-level basketball. Congratulations to the Lakers for going up 2-0, for not essentially rolling over after losing Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic, but they are playing against a Rockets team right now that is just an absolute disaster. Even Durant comes back. He takes 12 shots. He looks good from a scoring perspective, but Eddie and I talked about it the other day on the program. He's just not a guy that does anything outside of scoring, and him trying to run an offense and set up an offense and trying to pass out of double teams is just an absolute debacle. But we'll get back to Rockets and Lakers here in just a second. I mean, the first two games, just a shocking evening. I anticipated the Lakers winning. You did not anticipate the Spurs losing or the Celtics losing. I mean, think about it this way. The Spurs have the second best odds to win the title this year in the NBA, behind only Oklahoma City, and they lose at home to the 7th seed. Now, granted, there's a reason for that with Victor Wembanyama, and then the Celtics have the third best odds at winning a title, and they lose at home to a 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. And I was at the Celtics and Sixers game. Again, we'll get to that in just a second, but I want to start with what we saw in San Antonio, because you got the biggest news there with the injury to Wembanyama, and you also got the biggest upset there, because again, that's a team that's better than even Boston. I mean, what did they close the year at 30-4 with 3 of the 4 losses coming against Denver? They're not playing against Denver right now, and then it was even better. I guess it was 31-4 if you counted game 1 of the postseason. Yet they end up losing. And again, I was at the Celtics-Sixers game. I'm sitting in media row. They started to show the highlight. It started to circulate around that Wembanyama had gone down with the concussion after tripping over, I think it was Drew Holiday, hit the face on the floor. Face like bounced back up. He got a concussion. For you older fans or guys that have just seen, guys and gals that have just seen the highlights, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Bird bouncing his head off the parquet back in game 5 of that first round series against Indiana. That was a best of 5. It was tied at 2. Bird goes back into the locker room just prior to half. He comes back out in the third quarter, gets the rousing ovation. Marv Albert with "Here Comes Larry Bird." Well, that's something you could do in 1991 when the rules weren't as stringent. This is 2026. So not only does Wembanyama miss the rest of that game, but Wembanyama, in all likelihood, is going to be held out another game moving forward, if not 2, unfortunately. Right? And again, I'll just pause to say I appreciate everybody chiming in here with the chat. If I see stuff, I will address it, but it's difficult for me to read and to do the show at the same time. So 1991, Bird can come back in. 2026, they're not going to let Wembanyama anywhere near the court, maybe for multiple games. It reminds me of Klay Thompson, who I think suffered a concussion during one of those finals runs, and he went back out there and continued playing. And there was a big stink about Klay Thompson being allowed to play. Again, just as we go on, get more modern, people get very sensitive to being out there with a concussion. So, it might be a couple of games before we get Wembanyama back out there. Now, it still did look like San Antonio was going to win that game, even with the injury to Wembanyama, because they had at one point, I believe, a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter. It was 93-79 with about 8.5 minutes left. And, it's been a long day for me. I'm at the Celtics-Sixers game. I'm doing the show all day from 4 to 7. Prior to that, I'm prepping. I hadn't slept much the night before. So I'm losing a little bit of focus, thinking that the game is over with about 8.5 minutes left, and it's 93-79. And from that point on, Portland ends the game. And Portland's not known for their offense. They're more of a defensive team. They end the game on a 27-10 run to get the 106-103 victory. And a couple of different things. One is the Portland defense is just so good, right? Drew Holiday, Kamara, even Matisse Thybulle getting a couple of minutes in this one since he came back. Robert Williams is a tremendous defender. Donovan Clingan, what Clingan does on the glass, amongst others. Like, that is a really good defense. So that's first. And then secondly, despite that, San Antonio, even without Wembanyama, has to be able to close out that game at home against the 7th seed. I mean, a couple of years ago, De'Aaron Fox is named the clutch player of the year. De'Aaron Fox is an all-star. De'Aaron Fox has a max contract. So De'Aaron Fox should be able to help you close out a game in which you're up 13 at home. And he just didn't do anything down the stretch. Fourth quarter, he had 4 points on 1 of 6 from the field. Steph Castle, who's a borderline all-NBA guy in many people's minds, a lot of that's because of his defense, but he's also a really good offensive player. He shot 1 of 4 for 2 points in the fourth quarter. So their backcourt of Castle and De'Aaron Fox has got to be able to do more than that. You can't rely on Wemby, that much. You still have to be capable. So even without Wembanyama, those guys still should have been able to protect a 13-point lead with 8.5 minutes left on their home floor. And now, I would say San Antonio, I don't know what you guys think. You can leave it in the comments, because I did go back and read them after, every single one of them. So I will go back and read these. I just don't think I can respond to them. I can respond if you leave the comment on YouTube. But I don't know what you guys think. I think San Antonio is probably in a lot of trouble, because Wembanyama now is in the concussion protocol. So he'll probably, I'll say, maybe miss one more game, especially with San Antonio. Remember what they did in the early 2000s when Tim Duncan, I think, was battling the leg injury. I think it was maybe the knee, and he wanted to come back. They held him out. They're like, no, we're thinking long-term with you. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them be conservative with this concussion for Wembanyama. So he's going to miss, you would think, at least one more, if not more games than one. And now you're heading back to Portland, where I'm sure that crowd is going to be crazy. And Portland just won without Wembanyama in this game. So if Wembanyama misses another game, Portland's going to have the best player in the series in Denny Avdia. He's better than any other San Antonio Spur outside of Wembanyama. They're now going back home. They've got some guys that have playoff experience, like Drew Holiday, who was fantastic, especially down the stretch defensively and in, some of the plays that he was setting up from an offensive perspective. Blazers have the best player in the series. Blazers have the most experienced player in the series. They're both teams that really don't have guys that have made deep runs outside of Harrison Barnes, who looked to hurt his wrist towards the tail end of that game as well, which is something else to keep your eye on. And neither head coach has postseason experience. So it's not like, San Antonio has some massive advantage from that front. Now, the funny part about this, I was thinking about this as I watched the game, because you tune in to see Wembanyama as, the number one guy. He is the attraction. The funny part is that Wembanyama, the first pick in 2023, Scoot Henderson, the third pick in 2023. Who would have ever thought at the beginning of this series, if you said, hey, we're going to be 2 games in, the best player in this series is going to be from the 2023 NBA draft, but the best player is not going to be Victor Wembanyama. It's actually going to be Scoot Henderson, who up until the tail end of this year, after missing basically the first 50 games with a hamstring injury, had not been playing good basketball in his career and has improved his stock here to close out the year. But you make an argument, the 2 best games of Scoot Henderson's career, or at least the best earlier this evening, was in the postseason. Like, game 1, he had 18 points on 7 of 11 from the floor, played really good defense, I thought. And then tonight, 31 points, 11 of 17, hit some threes, which is not his forte. The outside shot was great defensively. This has easily, to me, been the best I have ever seen Scoot play in his career over the last 2 games. And think about it. They've both come against a very good Spurs defense, and they've both come in postseason games on the road. So even if Portland ends up losing this series, which in all likelihood I would think that they would do, you still have to feel really good about how Scoot has looked here when put to the test in a postseason situation. That should make you feel really good moving forward. Because there were times where you said, maybe that pick was a lost cause. Maybe Scoot's going to be a bust. A bust is not capable of going on the road, being the best player on the floor in a postseason series. And that's what Scoot did earlier tonight. And really quickly, back to Wembanyama before we move on to Sixers and Celtics. I understand it's a freak accident. It's one of those freak injuries. But some guys, like Embiid. Embiid's just always banged up, right? He's just always hurt. It's not always his fault. Some of it's his fault, maybe from not staying in great physical condition. But, then you have the Bell's palsy, which he got a couple of years ago. It's the appendix this year. He got hit in the face a couple of years ago where he broke the orbital bone. Some guys just can't stay healthy. And hopefully that's not the case for Wembanyama, but last year it's the blood clots. This year it's only 64 games. Now it's just his second postseason game. And 2 games into his postseason career, he's already hurt. Think about LeBron. How many games has LeBron missed in his postseason career? That's part of the greatness of LeBron, is he's always healthy. Availability is key. And if San Antonio is going to win a title, they're going to now, need him to play every game. All right, maybe you can get away in the first round against Portland with him missing a game or 2 more. You're not going to get away with it in the second round against Denver or Minnesota. You're certainly not going to get away with it in, against OKC or in the NBA Finals. You need Victor Wembanyama to stay healthy. And the fact that he can't, is a problem, is a concern. Because I think Portland wins one of these 2 games back in Portland. They might win both if they don't have Wembanyama. Then you're down 3-1. Then your season's on the brink of being over. So that's the game that I felt was most important to address first. Now we can get into Sixers over the Celtics. 111-97 in Boston. They even up the series at 1. I was at the game. Atmosphere was horrible. I've been to a ton of postseason games. Other arenas, inside the Boston Garden as well. This one seemed like it was more of a regular season game, probably just because I would think Boston has played so many big games over the last couple of years. They win game one very easily. Everybody probably anticipates without Embiid, they're going to do the same thing. And I mentioned as the key heading into this one, Philadelphia needed to shoot better from three. Game one, they were 4 of 23. 4 of 23 in game one was Philadelphia from beyond the arc. The Celtics were 16 of 44. Of course, you're not going to win that game. Boston outscored them by 32 points from the three-point line. Well, tonight, Philadelphia completely turned that on their heels. They went 19 of 39 from three. It's almost impossible if you're going to lose shooting that way. And then Boston went just 13 of 50. So not only did Philadelphia make a lot more threes, but Philadelphia shot a less lot threes. So Boston was just wildly inefficient. And again, that's par for the course when a Joe Mazzulla team loses in the postseason. It often comes down to them being inefficient from three and not adjusting and finding a different way to play. So the Celtics three-point shooting was just brutal. You know, Tatum and Hauser went 2 of 8 each. Peyton Pritchard was 0 of 4. Jaylen Brown was 5 of 12, so he shot it relatively well. And then Derek White was 2 of 10 from 3, 3 of 12 overall. And he's the main takeaway from the Boston side that I would say you need to be concerned about. Like, I'm not sure, like, that's what Boston needs to fix. I'm not sure if they can, because it's been not just a struggle in the postseason. It really started on opening night. He has not shot the ball well. Now, I think he's been the Celtics' second best player, and I think in the regular season you could get away with him struggling from the field. You might be able to get away with it against Philadelphia. You're not going to be able to get away with it if Derek White is still shooting at a 33% clip from three, which he's done this season, 39% from the field. Like Derek White, his last 3 years in Boston, shot 45% from the field, shot 39% from three. This year, he's at 39% from the field, not from three, from the field. He's under 40%, and he's 33% from three. Again, Celtics get out of the first round that way, maybe, against Philadelphia, but they're not going to beat the Knicks like that in the next round, or maybe even Atlanta, if Atlanta upsets the Knicks. They're not going to beat the Pistons, the Cavaliers, moving forward. They're not going to win an NBA championship that way. So a major thing that needs to be rectified is Derek White's outside shot. And, you know, Boston just can't lose games like that, bottom line. If you're a serious title contender, you don't see OKC losing games like that, right? Now, you saw San Antonio lose one today like that, but they had an excuse. Their best player got hurt. That's a horrible loss for the Celtics. They're at home. The Sixers are without their best player in Embiid. And think about this. On a floor with champions. Now here's your Philadelphia talk. If you didn't like the fact I led off with what the Celtics did wrong. Here's where it gets positive for Philadelphia. On the Celtics home floor, hostile environment, even though the crowd wasn't great tonight, against a title contender, who's the favorite, who has 2 champions, right? A top 5 player the last 5 or 6 years in Jason Tatum, a finals MVP, and a guy that's going to finish in the top 5 or 6 in finals voting this year in Jaylen Brown. You know who the best player was? The best player was a first-year rookie who was playing in his second postseason game. He was the best player for either team. Again, with Tatum and Brown on the floor, with Tyrese Maxey on the floor, with Paul George on the floor, on the road in Boston, he gives you 30 points, 10 rebounds, 6 of 10 from 3. And I feel like this guy's the best player. Like, if I'm just judging guys that I've seen this year, I think VJ Edgecombe's the best player in the NBA. Remember, opening night, his first game, he dropped 30-plus points. Then he gives you 30 points and 10 rebounds in this one. In fact, he became the first rookie guard since Magic Johnson, to have 30 points and 10 rebounds at a playoff game. And that was all the way back in 1980. And he also became the youngest guard to ever do that. Youngest ever, surpassing Magic. That's 46 years ago. He was just absolutely fantastic. So, even again, almost like with the Scoot thing, even if you don't win this series and you're Philadelphia, you have to absolutely be elated at what this kid does. Like Con Knipel's going to win Rookie of the Year. Cooper Flagg is going to have a brighter future. He's going to be a better player than VJ Edgecombe. But VJ Edgecombe can play. And that shouldn't be overshot. Like he had a big playoff moment here tonight. Con Knipel didn't. Con Knipel shrunk in the postseason. Cooper Flagg didn't even get to the postseason. And then in one of the biggest rivalries in the entire sport against a supposed championship contender, VJ Edgecombe does that. So good for him. And Boston's playing with fire, right? Because I still think that Boston is the better team. I still think they win the series. I still think that Embiid doesn't come back. But the Celtics are playing with fire because if Embiid somehow does come back, this Sixers team is really dangerous. But again, the bottom line is if the Celtics are going to compete for a trip to the finals, they can't be losing games like this. Can't be losing games like this. And last note, I had a complaint last night in the Minnesota-Denver game, and I'm sure you guys did too, with how often the whistle was blown. I mean, oh my God. The whistle was way too much in that game. For both teams, no team had an advantage. The whistle was blowing every 5 seconds. It's the playoffs. Let the guys play. I walked into the game a little bit late because I got off the air at 7. I had to go walk Zuzu, my dog. So I got in there a couple of minutes late. Just as I'm getting in there, I think it was 6-6, Jaylen Brown puts a poster dunk and then wants to celebrate it a little bit. You're giving him a technical. Can we allow these guys to show some emotion in a postseason game? We want high emotion. We don't want robots in a postseason game. We want high emotion. So I didn't like that at all. And the night before, I didn't like the whistle constantly blowing in that Minnesota-Denver game. Let it be as physical as possible. It's postseason basketball. All right, so that's the first 2 games. Those, to me, were the 2 interesting ones because they were massive upsets. I didn't view Lakers-Rockets as an upset. I thought at the beginning of the series, I picked Houston. All right, but with Durant's health maybe not 100%, with the vibes I'm getting in Houston, with how the Lakers looked in Game 1, I thought heading into this one, the Lakers would win. And they did, 101-94, 2-0 series lead, which is amazing. Like they said during the broadcast there on NBC, if you had said 2-3 weeks ago, hey, the Lakers are going to lose Austin Reeves, they're going to lose Luka Doncic, they're going to be up 2-0 in the first round. One, I would have said I didn't believe it, but if you said, like, all right, they are going to do that, who are they going to do it against? I would have guessed Houston. Houston's a disaster. And that's why that final day of the regular season was so important, where Denver didn't lose on purpose, tried to lose, but still didn't, to San Antonio. Because that was the difference between playing a pathetic Houston team and playing Minnesota. And Denver got stuck with Minnesota. Even though they have the better record, they're facing a much harder team. Lakers lucked out in the fact that they get Houston. Because it'd be, reversed in this situation where Lakers be struggling against Minnesota right now if they were the 3 seed, and Denver would probably be cruising by a Houston team that's just an absolute disaster. Give credit to a couple of different guys. One, Redick, for how he's kept everybody focused. Secondly, in this game specifically, Marcus Smart, who was tremendous defensively on Kevin Durant and was also fantastic in the first half. I think he had 17 of his 25 in the first half, hit a couple of big late threes as well. And Marcus Smart's a guy who's been there before. He's played in a million big games. Luke Kennard, once again, great. 23 points. I mean, the guy's getting an MVP chance. If Luke Kennard gave you this when they had Luka and Austin Reeves there and LeBron, if he was giving you this, like, all right, they're another step up. That's how good Luke Kennard has been. And then LeBron, didn't shoot the ball, I guess, spectacularly well. What was he? 8 of 20, but he had 28 points, got to the line, 10 of 14, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, controlled the pace. And let's be honest, I'm not going to keep throwing out like, oh, he's 41. But he was the best player on the floor. Like the best player on the floor in this game was LeBron James at the age of 41. and severely outplayed Durant. Now you want to say, all right, Durant has the knee issue. How much was that bothering him? Who knows? Bottom line is LeBron was the best player on the floor. The other bottom line is, watching these two teams, it's nothing like the quality of play we saw in Denver, Minnesota, some of these other games. It's almost like they're playing a different sport. The offenses are atrocious, whichever team wins this year is going to get smoked next round by OKC. Absolutely smoked. But again, I guess you would say the Lakers would have a better chance of beating OKC, or at least winning a game against OKC, because not only are the Lakers just more coherent and run a better offense, might have the better talent, but they run the better offense, but they also have potential guys coming to help and save the day, right? Like Austin Reeves could be back. Luka could be back. What's coming to save the day for the Rockets? The Rockets are what they are. The Rockets aren't adding anybody for the next round. So either one of these teams will get smoked. I'd prefer to see the Lakers in the second round. And, listen, you guys know, I don't know how many of you are new to listening to the show. I'm honest about how I feel. I don't try and hide it and trash a guy and then say, well, I really like him, but this. I do actually like Durant, but I have some critical stuff to say about him, and I often do go back and forth with him on social media. But I'm not going to lie and say I love LeBron. I don't. I very rarely, if ever, have rooted for one of his teams. I'll root for the Lakers the rest of the series. Spare me from having to watch the Rockets try and run another offensive set. I mean, it is atrocious. They don't run anything, and I understand some of that has to do with not having a point guard, but how about some adjustments from Ime Udoka? Experiment with something during the regular season. It's as hard of an offense to watch as we have in the sport, which is amazing because they have one of the great offensive players of all time in Kevin Durant. And maybe I'm even wording that wrong. They have one of the great scorers, if not the greatest scorer in the history of the sport in Kevin Durant. And to me, he looked healthy, but he only took 12 shots. He only had 3 points, I believe, on 3 shots in the second half. What are you doing? You have nobody else off. It's different if Durant has that in Golden State, right? When it's all right, well, I got Klay Thompson over here. I got Steph Curry over here. I don't need to score. He needs to score for this team because if he doesn't, nobody else can. So it's crazy. And, here's the other thing about Durant. And I've mentioned this a ton in recent days. In fact, Eddie and I talked about it earlier today. All right. Now, scoring is the most important thing in the sport. I would almost say that's the saying, and I understand it. I would almost say the most important thing in the sport is making your teammates better. And if you can do the combination of both of them, like a LeBron, like a Larry Bird, like a Jokic, like a Grant Hill who was calling the game earlier today for NBC, that's the best thing you can be. But I understand people saying the most important thing is putting the orange ball in the basket. And Durant does that as good as anybody in the history of the sport. But this guy, for example, like Jason Tatum, does everything else better. Tatum's a better rebounder. Tatum's a better defender. Tatum's a better playmaker. And there's a whole list of guys like that throughout NBA history. LeBron might not be, even though he's the all-time leading scorer, he's not the pure scorer that Durant is. He's better at everything else. Larry Bird, better at everything else. Rick Barry, better at everything else. Scottie Pippen, better at everything else. Durant, he can't pass out of a double team. Durant can't dribble. Can't do anything. It's a mess. And yet they consistently give him the ball at the top of the key and ask him to create. He doesn't move away from the basketball, which is another skill set. He's never moving, never trying to get open. I mean, that was ugly offense. He had 9 turnovers. He had 9 turnovers. Kevin Durant. And, he shouldn't be handling the ball to that level. He had more turnovers, 9, than he had field goals, 7. He had double the amount of turnovers he had assists, and there was some head-scratching ones there late. So that Rockets offense is as bad as any team in the league. And this year has been an absolute disaster. It's another black mark on the, because listen, even if Durant was healthy, maybe this team wins against the Lakers. The only reason they would have won against the Lakers is because Luka and Reeves are out. If everybody is healthy across the board, think about it. There are 5 really good teams if everybody is healthy in the Western Conference. OKC, San Antonio are amazing. Denver is really good. The Lakers, when healthy, are really good. Minnesota clearly showed you last night. In the last couple of years when they went to the conference finals, they are really good. Houston's a bad team. Like that, they are easily the 6th team in the West. It's the top 5 teams. And then it's a major gap before you get to Houston. All right, so those are the 3 games. I think we did well. We did amazing yesterday. We did not do as good today as we did yesterday, where we had, Knicks and Hawks, and then we had Denver, Minnesota. But we did a lot better than we did over the weekend. I thought Saturday was a dud. I thought Sunday was a dud outside of the Detroit-Orlando game. But Saturday, Sunday, dud. Monday, an amazing day. Tuesday, another really good day. And we got 2 games tomorrow. And I'm not looking forward to that Suns-Thunder game at all. I'll try and do maybe a post-game show after that, or maybe we'll jump on midway through if it's a blowout. I mean, there is that series. What's the point? They're going to blow them out. And yes, I do see somebody just, so I am reading this. Somebody says, Termity's neighbors must be wondering if somebody new moved back next door. Yes, I am usually asleep by 8 p.m. No, I'm up. But the point is, yes, I don't know if I'm ticking my neighbors off. And I'll give you a quick story here. We go out to events, okay? So we cover different events. And I scream into the microphone. I like to project. So the NBA, when I first started, would put us on like Radio Row with all these other radio stations, television stations. All right, Termini, Johnson, you do your show. At some point, they had to give us our own separate room. So we'll go to these events. All the other media people are in one area. Eddie and I need a back room. We were at an event called the Legends Brunch, my favorite event in the entire NBA calendar. It's All-Star Weekend on Sunday, right prior to the game. It's all the legends. We've interviewed Dr. J, Larry Bird, Rick Barry, Oscar Robertson, all the greats, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So the commissioner is listening to all the legends give their speech, but I'm behind the stage and I'm screaming, and somebody has to come out from the NBA and said, Justin, you have to lower the volume. The commissioner is complaining because he hears you. He can't hear the speech. So anyway, yes, my neighbors probably are a little bit upset that I am now doing these shows. Maybe I'll get evicted, and the next show I do will have to be outside from in front of the Boston Garden. Anyway, we have 2 games tomorrow night. Now I'm doing it a little softer, so maybe I should show some more concern for my neighbors. Suns Thunder, I'm not interested in at all. That should be a blowout. That's what, OKC's not going to make the same mistake Boston did and play with their food. They're a little bit more professional. And then Magic Pistons. That game's going to be awesome. I cannot wait. Jalen Duren better get his act together. And that's a must-win for Detroit because in the history of the sport, only 5 times has a team dropped the first 2 games at home, come back and won the series. So that is a must win. All right. I appreciate everybody that's tuned in. I appreciate everybody that's leaving the comments here. I will go back and read in a couple of minutes. And really, it's given me the energy to stay up. So I like doing these, even though it's a pain in the ass getting to this point, and then it's a pain in the ass immediately afterwards because I have trouble calming down and getting to sleep after I'm performing here a little bit. But thank you. I will go back and I will read your comments. I wish I knew if there's a way to reply to them after it's over. But the comments I will reply to, I promise, I've been doing as good a job as possible, is over on the YouTube page. You just leave a little comment there after you like and subscribe. Hopefully you're subscribed. And I have been writing back to you guys over there. So appreciate you stopping by. Thanks to Deepak with all the suits for sponsoring us. Buy DCLA on line there. If you check it out, make sure you let him know I sent you. Maybe he'll give you a little deal there with some of these awesome suits that he makes out there in the Los Angeles area, although he ships them all over the country and works with people from all over the country. Yes, it is time, as I see somebody say, time to grab some gummies. That'll help me relax, get to sleep, get rejuvenated for tomorrow. The show 4 to 7 Eastern time with Eddie on Sirius XM NBA Radio. Make sure you tune in, and then make sure you tune in tomorrow night. We'll do another one of these after the show. Appreciate everybody stopping by, and we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night.